Let me bring in my guest tonight, great think tank. Ashleigh McMahon is with us, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor. Never know what she's going to say. Michael Bixon, criminal defense attorney. You know what he's going to say. He's going to disagree with me, whatever it is. And then DeWitt Lacey, civil rights attorney, former criminal defense attorney. And, I'm just getting a feel for where he's going on this. So, guys, we got to go ladies first. The unpredictable one, Ashleigh McMahon. I think this could be a really big potential problem for prosecutors, not justifying it, but shifting the focus when and if we get to trial on what Ahmaud is doing in this construction site versus what the guys are doing with their guns.
Well, Vinny, I think you're going to be pleased with me tonight because I absolutely agree with you. That is exactly what the defense attorneys are going to try and focus on when this case does go to trial, and I suspect it will go to trial. As a prosecutor, you're going to have, and I know this because I've already had people contact me and ask me about this case and say, hey, what do you think about this video? What do you think about the past? And what I have to say is I'm an attorney looking at this based on the law. And I don't care if you have a person who snatches a purse off of a little old lady and is running down the street holding the purse high up over his head. You don't round up an armed posse and hunt that person down and shoot them. That's not what the law says to do. So we've got much deeper problems running through here with the district attorney's office failure to act and the associations with the Brunswick district attorney's office that one of the defendants had in this case that I think have been overlooked until very recently.
All right, Michael Bixon.
I think you got two issues here, right? And the first is whether or not there's going to be a citizen's arrest, and the second issue is the standard ground law. And I don't think either issue really helps the defense team here. The first issue, the whole citizen's arrest, we don't see any felony being committed, nothing at all. And the second issue of stand your ground law, you cannot be the aggressor and claim stand your ground. Both of these issues, I think, are going to fail for the defense. And going forward, I think they're going to have a really hard time if they do try to press those issues. I'm sure they will. I just don't think it's the best defense for them.
Now, by the way, there's a new DA that's been assigned to the case, and they're bringing this DA from Cobb County. I'll explain a little bit about Georgia, all right? Cobb County is just outside of Atlanta. It's basically it's connected to Atlanta. If you're from Cobb County, you might say you're from Cobb County, you might say you're from Atlanta. It's partially suburban, has some incredible school systems, but it's sort of liberal to a little bit, certain extent. It's kind of a mishmash in metro Atlanta, right? And Glynn County is the opposite, extremely conservative jury pool. DeWitt Lacey, that was for you. So now we've got a prosecutor who I guess will be coming from out of town, from the big city up in Atlanta, coming down to southeast Georgia to try this case for the prosecution. So the defense attorneys, my guess, are going to be jumping up and down talking about Ahmaud in the construction site, and you're going to be hearing the out-of-towners giving them a different argument. How is all that going to play in a courtroom?
Sure. I mean, look, I think all the points that have been raised are very true and fair. All right. What we cannot, discount is the effect that race is going to play in this trial. Glynn County is a majority white county, a white Southern county. This case is going to be divided along racial lines. It already is. And I see no reason as to why that's not going to continue as the trial gets going. Yes, I think the defense will play on, the old tropes of, look, you got the out-of-town, big-time lawyers coming in to tell us what to do when we've all seen it with our own eyes. The problem is, as was stated by Michael, what we've seen with our own eyes is that none of the defendants in this action could have possibly saw Ahmaud commit any felony. So the defense of a citizen's arrest just isn't there. Even if it is there, as was said a little bit earlier, you don't get to round up a posse with guns and go hunt somebody down. They are the aggressors. Even if it's an open carry state, you cannot show up with the gun saying, hey, I want to talk to you, and expect people to respond peacefully. You put a threat on this guy's life, and so he gets to protect himself. Whatever the prosecution is going to do is they have to keep it focused on those facts. And if they can do that, perhaps they can get a good and fair trial here.
Ashleigh, as I look at this case, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger in its reach and its importance and its significance, but I think it's going to stay down there in Glynn County. I don't think it's moving out. I don't think they're going to move that somewhere else, right? The defense is not going anywhere. They've got the home court advantage, literally. Outsiders from Cobb County coming down to Glynn County. How does that play into the mix from your perspective? You practice in Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I am familiar with both Glynn County and Cobb County. Cobb County, is more, for your viewers that don't know Georgia, is more of an affluent county as well. It's where the baseball team, the Braves' new stadium is and everything like that. So Cobb County, it tends to be a more moneyed county. And you've got a more rural county, which is Glynn County, that apparently operates by its own set of laws outside of the state of the rest of the state of Georgia. From everything that I'm hearing, what I find interesting is that yes, race is going to absolutely be an issue, and it also with what is going to come up as an issue here that I think people aren't even thinking about if they're not familiar with Georgia is rich versus poor is also going to come into play. And when you've got, somebody, I believe Gregory McMichael, the father, used to work for the district attorney's office as an investigator, so if you've got a majority white county like Glynn County, and you've got these people not getting arrested when this is so obvious to me on its face that they have probable cause to arrest, I'm thinking you got to look at the DA's office that was originally handling this, because why did they not arrest these men regardless of their race? I don't think it was race-based why they didn't arrest them. I think it's because it was home cooking, exactly like you're describing.
Hey, I want you to take a look at what the Attorney General of the state of Georgia sent out today. And it's a formal request that the United States Department of Justice conduct an investigation into the handling of the case, including communications by and between the Brunswick, Waycross DAs. Okay? So, Michael Bixon, now you've got the Attorney General of the state of Georgia chiming in, and everyone's trying to tell the people in Glynn County how they should administer law, but ultimately be 12 people from Glynn County, Georgia, who will decide, and you've got a lot of outside influences in this case. Does that create a handicap or an advantage for the prosecution?
I think it creates a handicap, and I think the biggest handicap of all is what's already happened, not what's going to happen when they bring in Ms. Holmes to actually prosecute this case, but with what's already happened with Ms. Johnson and Mr. Barnhill, who've already sort of bungled this case and messed it up for the prosecution, I think. What's done is done. And you can bet that the defense is going to exploit everything that's been said by those two in their favor.
All right, stay where you are. When we come back, another big story, more developments in the case of so-called doomsday cult mom, Lori Vallow Daybell. Her niece making some headlines with what she is saying about the children. And we've got information about how Lori Vallow Daybell's brother died. That's right, he's dead too. The one that killed Lori's brother, he's dead also. All that when we return. All right, time for me to take a complicated story and try to make it a little more complicated. No, not really, but sort of, yeah. Lori Vallow Daybell, so-called doomsday cult mom, has a brother, Alex Cox. He was involved in the shooting death of her brother. Also sort of suspected in some other strange things that were going on. Well, he's dead and has been dead and actually died the day after Lori Vallow's husband's wife's body was exhumed. Told you I was going to make it more complicated, right? So Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy, her body's exhumed. The next day, Alex Cox, dead. Tonight, Julie Grant takes a closer look at the investigation into the death of Alex Cox.
911, where is your emergency?
I have a older male here named Alex. He just passed out here on my bathroom.
He is breathing?
Yes.
The caller is talking about Alex Cox, Lori Vallow Daybell's brother. His untimely death at the age of 51 has raised questions about his role in a string of bizarre incidents that preceded the disappearance of Lori's children, JJ and Ty Lee.
Is he on his back or on his stomach? Where is he at?
He's on his side.
Okay. Can you lay him flat on his back on the ground?
I'll try. It's just there's feces on the ground.
Okay. I know that's gross, but if we can just go ahead and get him flat on his back, I want to make sure he's breathing.
Alex.
Cox was found unresponsive in his bathroom and later pronounced dead at the hospital. That was last December. Now, after months of investigation, Court TV has obtained the results of his autopsy. The medical examiner concluding Cox died of natural causes, attributing his death to bilateral pulmonary thromboemboli, or blood clots in his lungs. Questions have swirled around Cox after he killed Lori's husband last July.
All the brothers here visiting, brother-in-law visiting from Houston.
This is dashcam video from the Chandler police officers who responded to the scene.
Okay, just have a seat right there. Let's get FD in here. Yeah. Have a seat. Yeah.
Cox tells the officer he shot Vallow after he was attacked with a baseball bat.
What happened today? How did it get to this?
I don't know. He was enraged.
What's going on? What happened?
He was talking with my sister earlier.
No, what happened today, though? Like, just in the last 20 minutes.
He came at me with a bat.
Cox was not arrested and never charged, but his role in Vallow's death, coming in the middle of a bitter divorce from Lori, is just one of the many mysteries left unsolved. Another is the whereabouts of JJ and Ty Lee. The children have been missing since September, and Cox was seen in the last known photo of them at Yellowstone National Park. Then, just 1 month later, another unexplained event.
911, where's your emergency?
Someone just shot my window.
Okay, someone shot at your vehicle?
Yeah, and it hit my window. It shattered my driver's side window.
Brandon Boudreaux, once married to Lori's niece Melanie Pulowski, reported in October that he had narrowly escaped death after he was shot at. The bullet striking his car, Boudreaux suspects Cox was behind the attempt on his life.
Just makes you sad. You know, like a lot of people you care about aren't here anymore because of these ideas.
The hope is the answers to these lingering questions won't remain buried with Alex Cox.
All right, so Alex Cox, again, in the middle of a whole bunch of things involved in this investigations, but he's now dead, and they're saying natural causes. Lacey, should it just end there, the investigation into the death of Alex Cox, despite the coincidence of it happening the day after the death of someone else involved in this? Tammy Daybell's body is exhumed, then all of a sudden he's dead. Should it just end with the medical examiner saying natural causes?
Absolutely
Normally,
not.
I'd say yes.
Absolutely not. I think there are some circumstances which make his involvement in these other deaths very suspicious. Now, as far as him being dead, Alex, Mr. Cox, they say natural causes, they say blood clots. We don't necessarily know what toxicology results have determined, but I would assume that there was no foreign intoxicants like drugs or some illegal narcotic that led him to die. I don't know if it's fair to speculate about how Mr. Cox died without there being some evidence. However, his relation to the current investigation that's going on, I think, has to continue because people deserve answers. Investigating that it might prove to be valuable for folks who want to know what happened to others as well as the children.
Michael Bixon, your thoughts about the death of Alex Cox and how it impacts everything else that's going on here now that they're saying natural causes here?
I mean, I get that they're saying natural causes, right? But there are too many connections to ignore. You got JJ and Ty Lee missing. You got Alex Cox dead. You got Charles Vallow dead. You got Brandon Boudreaux getting shot at. He is just another part of a spiderweb that's all connected to Miss Vallow. And it's just too many coincidences to ignore. And yet, look, it's totally possible that he died of natural causes. But with everything else going on, I think we need to look into it a little bit further.
Yeah, I'm with you, Michael. I don't believe in coincidences. I mean, they may happen from time to time, but the timing of it as well. Something else we need to talk about tonight, and this is Lori Vallow Daybell's niece, okay? Melanie Boudreaux, now Pulowski is her name. She's divorced and remarried as well. She gave an interview to a local reporter out in Arizona, and in that interview, she's quoting her Aunt Lori about what happened to the kids and why they weren't in Idaho when Melanie moved to Idaho. This is the first time I've ever heard anyone actually quote Lori Vallow talking about her missing children. Take a listen.
Prior to their move, she was moving for their safety and for those threatening her, and to keep JJ and Tylee safe. This was a big move to try to, kind of move forward after Charles was shot and to remain safe with the kids. So as soon as I move up there in November, I see some of their stuff, but I don't see them there. And Lori says that they're safe and they're doing everything they can to keep them from the people that are trying to harm them. I believe that.
There's an Ashleigh McMahon. Is that the defense that Lori Vallow Daybell will have in court? And if so, why not just tell the judge? What if she told the judge, listen, what if she told the judge exactly that? Listen, the kids are safe. I moved them, but I'm keeping them from some people who are after them. And guess what? I'm not telling anyone where they are. Do what you want with me, Judge.
Well, if she said that, I would have a different opinion on this case and a different opinion of Lori Vallow than the one that I have right now, which is this is a woman who is by every, observation in the book, not dealing with a full deck as far as her belief system goes and, her cult personality and that sort of stuff. I believe if the kids were really somewhere safe, she'd have let the judge know immediately. And I don't think that's the case in this case. And I don't think, a person who has so many bodies piling up all around them and who is, wearing her lipstick to court every day and who's insisting, that she's not going to let the judge know where two children are is necessarily, on the up and up in this case. I feel very badly for these children
Ashleigh,
and for everybody in this family.
Ashleigh, I got to cut you off. Because we could neither confirm nor deny if she wore lipstick to her last court appearance because she was wearing a safety mask, okay? So we did not get to actually see that. Do it, Lacey. What if she said that to the judge? And what if she said it to the jury at her trial for desertion of her children? She gets up at the stand and tells the jury, listen, there are people after my children. They are safe. They are my children. I will not do anything to risk their safety. I am not going to say in public in front of all these cameras and people and microphone where they are because then they will be in danger.
Well, I think to say it to the judge is different than to say it at trial. To say it at trial might be helpful for her, depending on who's on the jury. Maybe they believe the story. Maybe she comes off as a credible witness in the disappearance of her children. However, I would have to argue that if there's anyone she would want to reveal that information to, it should be the judge. To let the judge know, hey, Your Honor, look, I can speak to you in private, in camera, and reveal the location of these children, and only if you can promise me that you'll make sure they're protected. And that may alleviate a lot of the suspicion that's circling around her right now. But the fact that she's not is incredibly suspicious. And I think it's unlikely that she's going to stand up in trial and do that.
All right. I'm not saying that I necessarily believe it, but I want to believe it. I want it to be true that the children are somewhere safe, JJ and Tylee. Yeah. When we come back, Ashleigh Banfield sits down and speaks with Megyn Kelly Megyn Kelly had this exclusive sit-down with Tara Reid, the woman accusing Joe Biden of sexual assault. Well, Ashleigh Banfield spoke to Megyn Kelly about that and much, much more. You'll see it when we return.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae with your Court TV news break, starting tonight with the announcement by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation earlier today. They say they've made an arrest that relates to the Ahmaud Arbery case. Yesterday, the agency said they were looking into threatening Facebook posts aimed at future protests over the shooting death of Arbery. Today, they say they have a culprit, 20-year-old Rashawn Smith, who they say made a fake Facebook user ID using the information of a, quote, unwitting individual and posted a hoax threat. Smith is being held in the Liberty County Jail in Georgia on charges of dissemination of information related to terroristic acts. And turning now to New Mexico, where what happened to a lost bag of over $100,000 left police shocked. This is Jose Nunez. He saw that clear plastic bag of money next to an ATM, and his first call was to 911. He then took that money home to wait for police. The Albuquerque Police Department says it's the biggest amount of money they've ever had returned. Last week, the Police Academy honored Nunez for his integrity in turning in all of that money, $135,000 in total. And this 19-year-old is a criminal justice student. That's it for your Court TV news break. Vinny, back to you.
All right, first a message out to Jose. You are awesome, and we all just hope that we have children, and we hope that ourselves would react the same way. But where did the $135,000 come from? How is that just like laying around?
Sitting on the ground on the sidewalk next to the ATM. I'd lose my day job. This was the contractor for Wells Fargo who intended to put the money in the ATM, but he forgot and went on to the next one.
Unbelievable story. Great job by Jose Nunez out in New Mexico. Awesome stuff. Julie Janae, thank you so much. All right, folks, you know we're in the midst of the 2020 election season, which I think started like in 2016. Anyhow, we're in the midst of it, and Joe Biden has run into a bunch of controversy because of some allegations against him. About a year ago, the allegations were first involving sexual harassment by a woman named Tara Reid. Now they have become allegations of sexual assault. Take a listen.
He had his hands underneath my clothes, and it happened all at once. So he had one hand underneath my shirt, and the other hand I had a skirt on, and he like went down my skirt and then went up, and I remember I was up almost on my tippy toes, and when he went inside the skirt, he was talking to me at the same time, and he was leaning into me, and I pulled this way away from his head, I remember, and so he was kissing my neck area. He said something vulgar, and
may I ask what?
He said, "I want to you," and he said it low, and I was pushing away, and I remember my knee hurting because our knees, he had opened my legs with his knee, and our knees caps clashed, so I felt like this sharp pain. His fingers were inside of my private area, my vagina, and it wasn't, there was no small talk, there was no like precept, it was just sudden, and it was happening.
So as you can see from the interview, Tara Reid is speaking with journalist Megyn Kelly. Well, earlier today, our own special contributor Ashleigh Banfield spoke with Megyn Kelly about this interview.
Megyn, that was not an easy interview to land. How did it happen?
You know, I was sitting here in my house on my couch, not planning on interviewing anybody, but I just called her just to see how she was doing. You know, I didn't know whether this is a person who's telling the truth or not, and I still don't know. But I just thought as a human, man, she's taken it like a lot, and just thought I'd reach out to her. So we got to chatting, and she asked me if I would interview her, and I said yes.
So broad strokes, what are your overall impressions?
I mean, Tara Reid's had a difficult life. while it's going to be up to the voters and the viewers to decide whether she had this incident with Joe Biden, the domestic violence she suffered in her marriage has been well documented. Her husband lost full parental rights, and she had to raise her daughter by herself. She put herself through law school, although she's not a practicing attorney, and she just hasn't had it easy. So I feel for her as a human, but in these situations, as you know, you never know who to feel most sorry for, right? It's like if she's a sexual assault victim of Joe Biden's, you have nothing but empathy for her. If he's the one being unfairly accused, you got nothing but empathy for him, right? It is a he said, she said situation.
And that, I think, is the core of this story. Is anyone going to get beyond knowing? I mean, are we ever going to sort of sort out evidence in this particular case and really look at it from a legal perspective?
My only feeling on that is she can't prove it happened. She's got corroborating witnesses who can prove she told them it happened at the time it allegedly happened, right? She's got a very strong corroborating witness who we call Karen in the interview.
Karen is a working professional. She does not wish to be on the record by name, but she has spoken to my producer in this interview, Rich McHugh, an investigative reporter and producer, and she has said to him specifically that your story has never varied, that you told her this story at the time it happened. Why do you think Karen is afraid to come forward with her real name and say this publicly?
Because she's, she owns a business, and I mean, she has, a family. You see what's happening to me. My friends and family are being harassed and attacked and discredited and dragged through the mud.
What does that prove? It proves that Tara told Karen it happened. It doesn't prove it happened. So it's going to be very hard for Tara to ever prove definitively. Now, could Joe Biden prove somehow that this is a lie? If it's a lie, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Did they have security cameras in all the halls of the Russell building back then, and he could somehow pull up and look at them? Did Tara, if she's lying, ever admit she was lying on the phone with somebody and he has a recording of it? That kind of thing could disprove it, but it's unlikely to happen.
You give an interview to your local paper.
Right.
And you don't tell the full story. You only tell about the alleged harassment, and you don't mention the alleged assault. Why not?
The first question that was asked of me was, well, it wasn't sexual, was it? And that's all it took. I was so lacking in courage, and it'd be the first time I've been telling the story. It kind of took my breath, and I thought, okay, I can't really talk about what happened. And then as soon as the local article came out talking about the harassment, within hours, before it even hit the paper, I was being called a Russian agent.
And for anybody who's sort of coming into the interview with you and me and has seen snippets or pieces of the interview with Tara that you did, I mean, broad strokes, the story is that about a year ago, Tara came forward to some reporters with a story of harassment where she alleges Joe Biden touched her hair, her neck, and her shoulders in a way that made her feel uncomfortable. She complained about it and felt retaliated for that. And in some aspects, the criticism of Tara has been that perhaps when she didn't get enough media traction for it, almost a year later, she upped the ante with a much more serious and many would say criminal allegation of this sexual encounter and assault with a penetration in a hallway on the Capitol grounds. Have I got that correct in terms of the layout?
Yes.
So for that reason, and as a lawyer, I know you look at things so meticulously down to the timing. What do you make of this evolution of her story and also the timing of dragging it out?
I would say the evolution, that's not what bothers me about this case. Because, if she had just told in April of 19, when she first came out, harassment, and then came out later as she did with, and also assault, I can understand that. Women, they take time to tell the full story. We saw that in the Weinstein case with a lot of his victims. So to me, that's understandable. It doesn't bother me as much. And her explanation is the reporter who she first told the harassment story to she felt he was kind of aggressive. And the first question was, well, it wasn't sexual, was it? And she was like, no, it wasn't. So that's her story. I don't find that implausible. I don't know whether it's true. I've seen it happen before. I think Tara Reid's biggest problem is believing that a sitting U.S. senator committed a sexual assault in the middle of a hallway, in the middle of the Senate office building, in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, in a hallway where, even according to Tara's story, he was just talking to someone moments before he allegedly committed the assault. I think that's really tough to get past because it's so incredibly reckless, right? It's just so incredibly reckless. And we haven't seen him have a reckless life. It's not that he's never touched anybody inappropriately, but no, he admits, he's too handsy and he was getting past that, but not in this way. So I don't know, that to me is like the place most people get stuck.
He went on TV last Friday and said, first of all, it never happened. Period, end of report. This did not happen. He did say that in his view, accusers should start off with the presumption that they're telling the truth. Do you think he's afforded you that presumption?
No. I mean, it's been stunning, actually, how some of his surrogates with the blue checks, that are his surrogates, have been saying really horrible things about me and to me on social media. He hasn't himself, but there's a measure of hypocrisy with the campaign saying it's safe. It's not been safe. All my social media has been hacked. All my personal information has been dragged through.
Well, and you also put it to her that with that kind of behavior, it's Weinsteinian, Weinsteinian, if that's a description, there would be others. And yet her response to that?
She had a good response to that, which was, she said, I'm the poster child for why other women wouldn't come forward. And that is a real dynamic, right? We've learned that. When it's so much harder for political accusers than it is for non-political, not that the Weinstein victims had it easy, I don't mean that, but in general,
powerful.
You come out and accuse a politician in an election year, you're going to get it so bad. Like Blasey Ford against Kavanaugh, the Roy Moore accusers against him, Tara against Biden, the Trump accusers against Trump. Reporters naturally have to ask, is this a political hit job? Why now, right? That's a normal question. Doesn't make it not true. It makes it more fraught. And that's her point. Nobody else wants to put themselves.
Sure.
All right, when we come back, folks, we're going to hear from you. The 13th juror posted today talking about the new video that's been revealed in the Ahmaud Arbery shooting case. Does it change the way you see the case? Does it change anything about it? The 13th juror speaks next.
For you.
All right, this is the video from inside that home that's in construction in Satilla Shores, which is the neighborhood where Ahmaud Arbery was shot and killed. And this, we believe, is him walking around just prior to the whole scene that we saw with the video of the car that's following him, and then he gets shot and killed. So does this change the way you see this case? What does this mean? Does this impact what you think about what took place in that street? That was that was my post today on social media. It got a great reaction. We begin tonight with our comment of the day coming from Lori, who writes, so it seems to me that if this is indeed Ahmaud Arbery, the maximum violation would be trespassing, a misdemeanor in most cases. Secondly, even if he had stolen something, although the video doesn't indicate this, they should have contacted the police and let the authorities handle the matter. Well, they did contact the police, Michael Bixon, but then one person's following him in the car, and then two are waiting for him in the middle of the street. Is there anything that the McMichaels or anyone else could have done other than call the police in that situation?
I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with confronting him about it. I mean, that's fine, okay? That doesn't mean you get to chase him down in a pickup truck with shotguns and shoot him. Okay, a very, very good distinction between the two of what should have happened and what did happen. Okay, nothing wrong with coming up to him and saying, "Hey, what are you doing in there?"
Could they stop him? Could they hold him there? Could you grab him?
No.
Like, let's say, take the guns out of the mix.
Look,
they just hold him there.
Look, no. Now, if there was a felony going on, that's different. Okay, but we didn't see any felony. There's no reason to believe there was a felony, and this is a part of the problem when you're dealing with citizens' arrest. they don't understand the law. I mean, look at it. Now they're relying on a law that they don't understand. Then again, neither did Mr. Barnhill. But again, that's a totally different issue. The citizens arrest law, I think, has a lot of issues, especially here in the state of Georgia. And I think this is very good evidence of it because people don't understand how it works and how they should comply with it. There was no felony going on here. They shouldn't have been using any violent, any aggressive method whatsoever.
Michael writes tonight, there's nothing to be changed. The poor man wasn't even granted the simple courtesy of at least having the police called to check it out. They were called, but they took care of it before the police got there. They chose to be judge, jury, and executioner all at once. And thank God justice delayed in this case will hopefully not be justice denied. DeWitt Lacey, let me ask you, what if, all right, I'm throwing it out there, there are charges, there may be an indictment, there may be a trial, there could be a not guilty verdict. What do you think the impact of a not guilty verdict in this case would be?
I think it goes to create further separation in the community, okay? There's already going to be a distrust of the system, quote unquote, because of past dealings and injustices and inequity that have gone on, especially in the African-American community. I would imagine if there is a not guilty verdict, that it would only prove to broaden that divide between Black folks and white folks in the South, and especially in Georgia. However, I don't know that a not guilty verdict is what's likely. I think probably what may be more likely is a hung jury. They are only going to need a couple people, maybe even one, who says, I don't know if I want to convict these guys. And in that county, I think it's entirely possible that they can look at this video and say, I don't really believe that they intended to kill him. I think they were just trying to stop some burglaries to happen, however unreasonable that may be. And I believe that to be a very unreasonable thought, okay? But some folks from Glenn County may feel that way. I think this is more like likened to a Trayvon Martin, where you have a private citizen who's acting as some type of vigilante justice. I'm going to go stop this person who I believe is a thief and ends up killing somebody. And that's exactly why people shouldn't act as law enforcement when they don't have the training. And as was said earlier, they don't understand the law.
Brendan writes tonight, it certainly changes the narrative of the incident. Was this individual out jogging? I'm certainly not implying that this person should have been shot, but people continue to get ahead of themselves when they don't know all the facts. Case in point, Smollett, Freddie Gray, Russian collusion, etc. Let the investigation take its course. Ashleigh, let's talk about the investigation. What more do you want to know about what happened here?
Well, in my opinion, and I think this is the opinion of a lot of people who have contacted me, they want to know all of the facts. And man, I'm really feeling like a prosecutor tonight. I'll tell you that much, because I know as a prosecutor, look, it is very, very rare that you have a case where you have a squeaky clean, absolutely perfect church-going business grandma victim. That's just not the reality of the situation. And, those are facts that you're going to have to deal with, and biases you have to deal with. I think DeWitt put it very articulately when he said, if you get there might be some jurors who just kind of try and justify this to themselves, because this case to me is so clearly. Mm-hmm.
We shall see. Out of time for tonight. This conversation will continue, though. Ashleigh McMahon, Michael Bixon, and DeWitt Lacey, thank you all so much. Awesome job tonight. Really do appreciate it. Our coverage continues here, 8 to 11 every night, Monday through Friday, Court TV Live with yours truly. In the meantime, folks, from a distance, don't forget to hug the kids.